Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones, by James Clear. Picture this. It's the final day of sophomore year. A high school student is standing on a baseball field when suddenly everything goes dark. A teammate takes a practice swing. The bat slips from his hands. It flies through the air like a missile and slams directly between the eyes of a young man named James Clear. He doesn't remember the impact. The force is so tremendous that it crushes his nose, fractures his skull in multiple places, and shatters both eye sockets. When he opens his eyes, he sees classmates running toward him, their faces frozen in horror. He looks down and notices red spots blooming across his clothes like dark flowers. Someone hands him a shirt to stop the bleeding. He's confused, almost disconnected from the moment. At the nurse's office, they start asking simple questions. "What year is it?" 1998, he answers confidently. "It's actually 2002. "Who's the president?" "Bill Clinton." "Wrong again. It's George W. Bush." Then comes the final question. "What's your mom's name?" Silence. 10 agonizing seconds pass. His mind is grasping at something that should be automatic, like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. "Patty," he finally says, trying to sound casual while ignoring the terrifying reality that it took him 10 seconds to remember his own mother's name. His brain is swelling rapidly. He loses consciousness. At the hospital, his body starts shutting down. He struggles to breathe, has 3 seizures, then stops breathing entirely. The situation is so critical that he's airlifted to a larger hospital in Cincinnati and placed in a medically induced coma. A priest and social worker arrive to comfort his parents. It's one of the worst nights of their lives. This is where one of the most impactful books of our generation begins. Because that young man in the hospital bed, barely clinging to life, would embark on a recovery journey that would unlock a profound secreta, a secret about how tiny, almost invisible changes can create remarkable transformations. The book born from this experience, Atomic Habits, has sold over 15 million copies worldwide. It's been embraced by Olympic athletes, Fortune 500 CEOs, struggling artists, and everyday people searching for a better way to change their lives. So what's the secret? How did someone who had to relearn basic skills, like walking in a straight line, become a top collegiate athlete, an academic All-American, and eventually a world-renowned expert on habits? By the time we're done today, you'll understand the answer. You'll have the blueprint for transforming your life, not through superhuman willpower or some monumental effort, but by understanding the surprising power of changes so small they're almost invisible. This isn't just about building better habits. It's about becoming a better version of yourself, one tiny step at a time. Book summary. We've all been there, right? New Year's Day arrives with a rush of motivation. This is finally the year you're getting in shape, writing that novel, or learning French. You go all in. You buy the gym membership, the fancy journals, the expensive language software. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, you're absolutely crushing it. And then the fire dies out. The gym visits become sporadic. The journal collects dust on your nightstand. That language app sits unopened on your phone, occasionally sending you passive-aggressive notifications. You slide back into old routines, feeling defeated, telling yourself, maybe I just don't have enough discipline. This is the story of nearly every failed attempt at self-improvement, and it's built on a fundamental misunderstanding of how change actually works. We convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. We believe transformation demands some heroic, earth-shattering effort. But what if that's completely backward? What if the key to lasting change isn't found in big, dramatic moments, but in the tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions we make every single day? This is the core revelation James Clear introduces in Atomic Habits. He argues that we dramatically overestimate the importance of defining moments and massively underestimate the value of making small improvements daily. He illustrates this with a simple thought experiment. Imagine getting just 1% better at something each day for 1 year. It's such a tiny improvement you won't even notice it from day to day. But here's where the math becomes mind-blowing. By the end of the year, you'll be nearly 37 times better. That's the power of compounding. Now, flip it. What if you get 1% worse each day? One bad meal, one skipped workout, one lazy afternoon. None of it seems to matter in the moment. But after a year of these tiny regressions, you'll have declined nearly to zero. This is the double-edged sword of habits. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. They're the compound interest of self-improvement. What starts as a small win or minor setback accumulates into something much, much bigger. The problem: we don't see this compounding in real time. You hit the gym 3 days in a row, but you're still out of shape. You study a new language for an hour, but you're nowhere near fluent. The results don't arrive quickly enough, so motivation evaporates, and we drift back to our old ways. Clear calls this the valley of disappointment. We expect progress to be linear, a straight line heading upward. But reality is different. The results of our efforts are often delayed. For weeks, even months, it can feel like you're spinning your wheels. This is exactly when most people quit. But here's the thing. Your work wasn't wasted, it was just being stored. Think about an ice cube sitting in a cold room. The temperature is 25 degrees. You slowly raise it. 26 degrees, 27, 28. Nothing happens. The ice cube just sits there, mocking your efforts. 29, 30, 31. Still nothing. Then you hit 32 degrees. A 1-degree shift, seemingly no different from all the ones before it, suddenly unleashes a massive change. The ice begins to melt. Breakthrough moments aren't the result of a single action. They're the culmination of all the previous actions that built up the potential required for a major shift. The people who stick with their habits long enough to push through the valley of disappointment and cross this plateau of latent potential are the ones who see remarkable results. This brings us to one of the most important mindset shifts in the entire book. Forget about goals. Focus on systems instead. What's the difference? A goal is the result you want to achieve, winning a championship, writing a book, losing 20 pounds. A system is the process that leads to those results, the way you practice, your writing schedule, how you plan your meals. If you're a basketball coach, your goal is winning the championship. Your system is how you recruit players, manage assistant coaches, and run daily practices. Here's the fascinating question. If you completely ignored the goal of winning the championship and focused solely on your systema, what your team does at practice every day, would you still get results? Clear argues that you absolutely would. The score takes care of itself. Winners and losers often have identical goals. Every Olympian wants gold. Every job applicant wants the position. The goal isn't what separates them. It's the system of continuous small improvements that makes the difference. This was the secret behind one of the most stunning turnarounds in sports history. In 2003, British cycling was an international embarrassment. In 100 years, they'd won a single Olympic gold medal. In 110 years, no British cyclist had ever won the Tour de France. Their performance was so underwhelming that one of Europe's top bike manufacturers refused to sell them equipment, fearing it would damage their brand if professionals saw the Brits using their gear. Then they hired Dave Brailsford. He brought with him a relentless commitment to a strategy he called the aggregation of marginal gains. The philosophy was beautifully simple. Search for a tiny 1% margin of improvement in everything you do. He explained, The whole principle came from the idea that if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike, and then improved each thing by 1%, you'd get a significant increase when you put them all together. Brailsford and his team started with obvious things. They redesigned bike seats for more comfort. They rubbed alcohol on tires for better grip. They had riders wear electrically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature. But they didn't stop there. They hunted for 1% improvements in completely overlooked areas. They tested different massage gels to identify which led to fastest muscle recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach riders the best hand-washing technique to reduce illness. They determined the perfect pillow and mattress combination for optimal sleep for each individual rider. They even painted the inside of the teen truck white, making it easier to spot dust particles that could degrade the finely tuned bikes. As these hundreds of small improvements accumulated, the results came faster than anyone imagined. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, the British cycling team dominated the 2008 Beijing Olympics, winning a staggering 60% of available gold medals. 4 years later at the London Olympics, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. That same year, Bradley Wiggins became the first British cyclist ever to win the Tour de France. The British team went on to win the event 5 times in the next 6 years. It's widely regarded as the most successful run in cycling history. They didn't achieve this by setting bigger goals. The goal to win had always existed. They achieved it by implementing a system of tiny, continuous improvements. They rose to the level of their systems, not their goals. So, if systems are the key, how do we build systems that actually stick? This is where we reach the heart of atomic habits. Clear says we fail to change for 2 reasons. We try to change the wrong thing, and we try to change our habits in the wrong way. Let's start with the first mistake, changing the wrong thing. He explains there are 3 layers to behavior change like an onion. The outermost layer is changing your outcomes. This is about results, losing weight, publishing a book, winning a championship. Most goals we set live at this level. The middle layer is changing your process. This is about changing habits and systems, your gym routine, your writing schedule, your meditation practice. Most habits we try to build operate at this level. But the deepest layer, the core of the onion, is changing your identity. This is about changing beliefs, your worldview, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others. Most people begin changing habits by focusing on what they want to achieve via the outcome. They think, I want to be skinny. That's outcome-based habit formation. The alternative is building identity-based habits. With this approach, you start by focusing on who you wish to become. Imagine 2 people trying to quit smoking. When offered a cigarette, the first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." This sounds reasonable, but this person still believes they're a smoker attempting to be something else. They're hoping their behavior will change while carrying the same beliefs. The second person declines by saying, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." It's a subtle difference in language, but it signals a profound shift in identity. Smoking was part of their former life, not their current one. They no longer identify as someone who smokes. True behavior change is identity change. The goal isn't to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal isn't to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal isn't to learn an instrument. The goal is to become a musician. When your behavior and identity are fully aligned, you're no longer pursuing behavior change. You're simply acting like the type of person you already believe yourself to be. So how does your identity form? It emerges from your habits. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you make your bed each morning, you embody the identity of an organized person. When you write daily, you embody the identity of a creative person. When you hit the gym, even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for being someone who doesn't miss workouts. No single instance transforms your beliefs. But as the votes accumulate, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is why small habits are so powerful. They provide evidence of a new identity. Meaningful change doesn't require radical transformation. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by proving to yourself you can become someone new. The process is simple. First, decide the type of person you want to be. Second, prove it to yourself with small wins. This brings us to the second reason we fail. We try to change habits in the wrong way. If identity is the who, we now need the how. How do we actually build the habits that cast votes for our desired identity? Clear breaks down any habit into a simple 4-step loop running constantly in our lives. Those 4 steps are cue, craving, response, and reward. First, there's the cue. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It's information that predicts a reward. Your phone buzzing in your pocket is a cue. The smell of fresh coffee is a cue. Second, there's the craving. Cravings are the motivational force behind every habit. It's the desire for a change in state. You don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the relief it provides. The cue is meaningless until your brain interprets it and creates a craving. Third, there's the response. This is the actual habit you perform, whether it's an action or a thought. You grab your phone, you brew coffee. Finally, fourth, there's the reward. The reward is the end goal of every habit. It satisfies your craving and teaches your brain which actions are worth remembering. This 4-step pattern, cue, craving, response, reward, is the backbone of every single habit. From this loop, Clear creates a practical framework called the 4 laws of behavior change. These are 4 simple rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. To create a good habit, make it 1. Obvious the cue. 2. Attractive the craving. 3. Easy the response. 4. Satisfying the reward. To break a bad habit, simply invert these laws. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. This framework is the operating manual for building systems that shape your identity. Let's walk through them one by one. The first law, make it obvious. Most habits are so automatic, they're essentially invisible. We don't even realize we're doing them. Before building new habits, you need to understand your current ones. A simple exercise is the habits scorecard. Just list your daily habits from waking up to going to bed, marking each one as positive, negative, or neutral. The goal isn't judgment. It's awareness of what you're actually doing. Once you have awareness, you can design your environment to make good cues obvious and bad cues invisible. Environment is the invisible hand shaping human behavior. We think we're in control, but many choices are simply the result of the most obvious option. In one study, physician Anne Thorndike wanted to improve eating habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors without talking to anyone. The refrigerators near cash registers were filled only with soda. She simply added water as an option. Over the next 3 months, soda sales dropped by over 11%, while water sales increased by nearly 26%. People often choose products not because of what they are, but because of where they are. You can architect your environment. Want to read more? Put a book on your pillow. Want to practice guitar? Place the guitar stand in the middle of your living room. Want to eat healthier? Put a bowl of fruit on the kitchen counter instead of cookies. Make the good habit the path of least resistance. A powerful way to make habits obvious is habit stacking. Instead of pairing your new habit with a particular time and location, pair it with a current habit you already do daily. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or, after I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into workout clothes. You're using the momentum of an existing habit to trigger the next one. What about breaking bad habits? Invert the law. Make it invisible. This is the secret to self-control. Disciplined people aren't heroes with superhuman willpower. They're just better at structuring their lives so it's not required. They spend less time in tempting situations. A powerful example comes from the Vietnam War. In 1971, researchers discovered over 15% of U.S. soldiers in Vietnam were addicted to heroin. The problem was worse than anyone thought. But the most stunning finding came when soldiers returned home. Only 5% became re-addicted within a year. 9 out of 10 soldiers who used heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. How? In Vietnam, soldiers were surrounded by cues triggering the habit. The drug was easily accessible, they were under constant stress, and surrounded by other users. When they returned to the United States, they entered an environment completely devoid of those triggers. The context changed, so the habit changed. You can break a habit, but you're unlikely to forget it. It's far more effective to cut a bad habit off at the source by reducing exposure to triggering cues. The second law, make it attractive. The more attractive an opportunity, the more likely it becomes habit-forming. Our modern world overflows with supernormal stimuli, highly engineered versions of reality, more attractive than anything our ancestors faced. Junk food is a perfect example. Our brains evolved when salt, sugar, and fat were rare and valuable for survival. Food scientists have learned to create products with the bliss point, the precise combination of these ingredients that excites our brains and keeps us coming back. These cravings are driven by dopamine. Here's the key. Dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. It's the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment, that gets us to take action. This is the difference between wanting and by dope liking. Your brain has far more neural circuitry dedicated to wanting rewards than liking them. Desire is the engine driving behavior. How can we use this to our advantage? Through temptation bundling. You link an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Engineering student Ronan Byrne loved watching Netflix but knew he needed to exercise more, so he hacked his stationary bike and connected it to his laptop. He wrote a program that would only allow Netflix to run if he was cycling at a certain speed. If he slowed down, the show would pause. He bundled what he wanted, watching Netflix, with what he needed to exercise. You can combine this with habit stacking. The formula becomes 1. After current habit, I will habit I need. 2. After habit I need, I will habit I want. For example, after I get my morning coffee, I will say one thing I'm grateful for. After I say one thing I'm grateful for, I will read the news. You're using the promise of what you want as motivation for what you need. Another powerful way to make habits attractive is tapping into our deepest human desire, belonging. We're herd animals. We want to fit in and earn peer respect. We imitate the habits of 3 groups: the close family and friends, the many, the tribe, and the powerful, those with status. One of the most effective things you can do is join a culture where your desired behavior is normal behavior. If you're surrounded by fit people, working out seems commonplace. The normal behavior of the tribe often overpowers the desired behavior of the individual. Most days, we'd rather be wrong with the crowd than right by ourselves. So surround yourself with people who have the habits you want. You'll rise together. To break a bad habit, invert the law, make it unattractive. The key is reframing your mindset. Highlight the benefits of avoiding the bad habit. Smoking doesn't relieve your nerves. It destroys them. You're not quitting anything because cigarettes do nothing for you. By changing your prediction of what the habit will deliver, you change the craving. The third law, make it easy. It's human nature to follow the law of least effort. We naturally gravitate toward the option requiring the least work. This isn't laziness, it's efficiency. Energy is precious, and our brains are wired to conserve it. Think of a bent garden hose. You can either crank up the valve and force more water through, requiring lots of effort and tension. Or you can remove the bend in the hose and let water flow naturally. Trying to pump up motivation to stick with a hard habit is like forcing water through a bent hose. Making habits simple and easy is like removing the bend. You want to reduce friction associated with good habits. If you want to hit the gym, choose one on your way to work. If you want to eat healthier, chop up fruits and vegetables on the weekend and put them in containers ready to eat. You're priming your environment to make the next action easy. This brings us to one of the most practical strategies, the 2-minute rule. It states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Nearly any habit can be scaled down into a 2-minute version. Read before bed each night becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Run 3 miles becomes tie my running shoes. The idea is making habits as easy as possible to start. Anyone can read 1 page or take out a yoga mat. This is a powerful gateway habit. Once you've started doing the right thing, it's much easier to continue. The point isn't doing only one thing. The point is mastering the art of showing up. A habit must be established before it can be improved. You have to standardize before you can optimize. The more you ritualize the beginning of a process, the more likely you can slip into deep focus required for great work. Twyla Tharp, one of the greatest modern choreographers, has a daily ritual. She wakes at 5:30 a.m., puts on workout clothes, walks outside her Manhattan home, and hails a taxi to the gym. She says the ritual isn't the workout. The ritual is the cab. The moment she tells the driver where to go, she's completed the ritual. It's a simple act, making the rest of the process easy. To break a bad habit, invert the law, make it difficult, increase friction. If you watch too much TV, unplug it after each use. If you're distracted by your phone, leave it in another room. A fantastic historical example is author Victor Hugo. In 1830, he faced an impossible deadline for The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He'd spent the last year procrastinating. So he concocted a strange plan. He collected all his clothes, had an assistant lock them in a large chest, and was left with nothing to wear except a large shawl. Lacking suitable clothing to go outdoors, he was forced to remain in his study and write. He finished the book 2 weeks early. He created what psychologists call a commitment devicea, a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. The fourth law, make it satisfying. The first 3 laws make it obvious, attractive, and easy increase the odds a behavior will be performed this time. The fourth law, make it satisfying, increases the odds a behavior will be repeated next time. It completes the habit loop. The cardinal rule of behavior change. What is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. But here's the trick. We're not looking for just any satisfaction. We're looking for immediate satisfaction. Our brains evolved in an immediate return environment. Our ancestors focused on immediate problems, finding food, avoiding predators. They didn't worry about retirement savings. As a result, our brains are wired to value the present more than the future. This is the problem with most good and bad habits. The consequences of bad habits are delayed. Smoking might kill you in 10 years, but it reduces stress now. The rewards of good habits are also delayed. Exercising today might prevent you from being overweight next year, but it's unenjoyable now. The costs of good habits are in the present. The costs of bad habits are in the future. The secret is adding a little immediate pleasure to habits that pay off long term, and a little immediate pain to ones that don't. One of the most satisfying feelings is making progress. This is why a habit tracker is so effective. The most basic format is getting a calendar and crossing off each day you stick with your routine. That little X provides a hit of immediate satisfaction. It's visual proof you're casting another vote for your new identity. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld uses this method to maintain his joke-writing streak. His goal is simple: never break the chain. He's not focused on whether jokes are good or bad. He's just focused on showing up and adding another link. "Don't break the chain" is a powerful mantra. And if you miss a day, the rule is simple: never miss twice. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. The first mistake never ruins you. It's the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Successful people aren't perfect, but they get back on track quickly. To break a bad habit, invert the law, make it unsatisfying, add an immediate cost to the action. This is where a habit contract can be incredibly effective. A habit contract is a written agreement stating your commitment to a habit and the punishment for not following through. Then have one or two accountability partners sign it. Knowing someone is watching can be a powerful motivator. We care deeply about what others think. Suddenly, you're not just failing to uphold a promise to yourself, you're failing to uphold a promise to others. These 4 laws make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Provide a complete framework for engineering your behavior. They're the tools you need to build better systems, cast votes for your desired identity, and slowly, 1% at a time, become the person you want to be. But there's a final, crucial piece to this puzzle. As you master these habits, you might face a new enemy: boredom. The journey to mastery requires loving repetition. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. At some point, it comes down to who can handle the boredom of training every day, doing the same thing repeatedly. You have to fall in love with boredom. But how do you stay engaged? The secret lies in the Goldilocks rule. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks at the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. You need to find challenges that push you just enough to keep you engaged. This is the paradox of habits. They're the foundation for mastery because they automate basic skills and free up your mind to focus on higher-level performance. But the downside is, once a habit becomes automatic, you can become complacent. You stop paying attention to little errors. This is why mastery requires combining habits with deliberate practice. You need a system for reflection and review to ensure you're continuing to improve. Great performers constantly track progress, look for areas to tweak, and make small adjustments. In the end, success isn't a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. It's a system to improve, an endless process to refine. Small habits don't just add up. They compound, and that is the power of atomic habits. Tiny changes, leading to remarkable results. Commentary. As we wrap up our journey through atomic habits, I want to reflect on why this book has resonated so deeply with millions of people. In a world obsessed with overnight success and life hacks, James Clear's message is refreshingly simple and profoundly true. Real change comes from the compound effect of hundreds of small decisions. The most powerful lesson for me is the concept of identity-based habits. The idea that every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become is a complete game changer. It shifts focus away from frustrating pursuit of results toward a more meaningful journey of personal evolution. It's not about what you want to have. It's about who you want to be. When you see habits through this lens, a small action like reading 1 page is no longer insignificant. It's an act of identity reinforcement. It's you telling yourself, "I am a reader." This book isn't just a collection of tips. It's an operating manual for human behavior. The 4 laws provide a clear, actionable framework that works with our nature, not against it. It acknowledges we're creatures of our environment, that we're motivated by anticipation and immediate rewards, and that we'll always gravitate toward the path of least effort. Instead of fighting these tendencies with willpower, Clear shows us how to harness them to our advantage. So how can you start applying these ideas today, right now? Let's make it simple. First, pick just one small habit you want to build. Don't overwhelm yourself, just one. Second, Use the 2-minute rule. Scale that habit down to its absolute easiest starting point. If you want to start exercising, your habit isn't to run a 5K. It's to put on your running shoes. That's it. Do that every day. Third, use habit stacking. Find something you already do every day without fail, like brewing coffee or brushing your teeth, and attach your new 2-minute habit to it. After I brush my teeth, I will put on my running shoes. And finally, redesign your environment in one small way. Make it obvious. Lay out your running shoes and workout clothes the night before. This removes a point of friction and makes the cue impossible to miss. That's all it takes to begin. One tiny change. One vote for your new identity. The secret to lasting results is never stopping improvements. It's a continuous process, a journey of getting 1% better every single day. The power of these atomic habits isn't in their size, but in their consistency. Because small habits don't just add up, they compound. And over time, they can lead to a life that is truly remarkable. That was a summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll be honest with you. A summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, grab a copy, because reading it isn't just learning it's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself and your daily life. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next journey into another life-changing book in Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep growing.